And we are back, Sky Squad. We are back in the building. How y'all doing? How y'all doing? So let's talk about Potomac. Let's dive right in. I think we should just dive right in. You know, I think Keiarna is very interesting on the Real Housewives of Potomac. She is very interesting to me. When I watch Keiarna on her social media, I mean, that's a girl I want to know, right? When I watch her on social media, that is a girl I want to know. I love how she moves on social media. I love how she's taken this platform and she's utilizing it to funnel people back into her business. I want to go and get whatever she's doing at her business enterprise. I do. I really do. You know, I mean, first of all, y'all know I like to support people in their businesses anyway. I feel like everybody who does a reality TV show, you should really be funneling those people into some business enterprise that is off of the show. You really should. I always feel like it's really crazy. It's really crazy when a person joins a show and they don't have anything else going but the show. I take this back to the Vicky Gunvalson of it all from the very beginning. Vicky Gunvalson, for those of you guys who don't watch The Real Housewives of Orange County, was probably one of the first housewives on Bravo, right? You know, she was kind of like the blueprint back in the day. And Vicky was interesting because Vicky sells insurance. She has her insurance business. So all throughout her time on Housewives, she's always worked, i.e., means that she had something else going on. Now, if you came into this franchise and maybe you didn't have a thing, then I would say, you know, you should definitely develop a thing, but a thing that makes sense to me, right? Or a thing that makes sense to the audience. For instance, Sheree. Sheree should have been doing fitness, in my opinion. In my opinion, the audience loves the Sheree body. Body by Sheree. You know, I know She by Sheree has such a great sound to it, which would have been great if she had tailored the She into women who want to elevate their fitness journey, their fitness, their lifestyle, their bodies. But I'm going to bring this back to Keiarna because this is where my issue resides. And I think Nia hit it on the head. That does not translate for Keiarna on screen. And I don't know why. On camera, she often feels dismissive, upset. They called her and Angel madness and sadness. And there is something that I feel like I've been able to pinpoint that she does that I think turns the audience off. And in order to display this, I am going to play you a clip. Shout out to our friends over at Reality Entertainment TV. And I'm going to give you guys the perspective that I think she's taking that is leading her down the wrong path with the audience.
Oh my God, y'all. You know what? I really try not to comment on things that people have to say about the reunions, about this and that. But y'all have to stop it when it comes to people in their relationships. You do not know what kind of friendships I have with my friends. You do not know our thoughts. You do not know the conversations that we have. Like, stop it. You guys are so used to this, like, fake personas and yes people. I don't get down with my friends like that, and I never will. So, not this whole thing that, I want to control my friends and all of that. Y'all, please, everyone on this show is some grown ass women. There's no need for me to do any of that. Like, just stop that narrative.
Okay.
Do you understand?
That is what this example here that is from the reunion from this past Sunday. I can't play it obviously all.
Do you understand how I could feel some type of way about you changing your energy? You said you can.
And this is a moment where Angel was having a moment with Wendy and Keiarna wanted to jump in. She essentially usurped the moment from Angel and Wendy, really from Angel, to make the moment about her apology to Keiarna, which really in the scene does not really resonate as much as I would think that maybe she would prefer that it did. Here is where I think Keiarna is going wrong. She is attempting to tell the audience that what we're seeing is not the reality that she actually lives. The problem with that is that this is what we're seeing. Okay. So you cannot have us unsee what we see. And you should not do that. You should not do that because ultimately, from chin checking to having Angels completely flip her positioning about how she felt initially about you and Wendy's beef to now this, it definitely appears to the audience as though there is some form of control there that may or may not translate into your intimate moments, but definitely shows up on camera. So to me, that is your problem. And I'm going to tell you how to solve it. Because what it then feels like is that Angel is now suffering the consequences of being chin checked. And she has been almost chin checked into submission for the duration of the season. It almost feels as though Kay, unintentionally so, set Angel off on this odd path with the rest of the ladies. And Kay tells us that we need to wrap up our viewpoints on how she treats Angel on screen. If you didn't give this to us, we would have nothing to go by. You may, in fact, in reality, not be a controlling friend. You may have high expectations of your friends, and that is fine. But on camera, it translates into control. Similarly, people could wonder if maybe in some way, shape, or form, that was the reason for the disconnect between you and Wendy. We don't know. I've always maintained that I thought that Kay was genuinely upset with Wendy because she genuinely had a thought about how their friendship would go, and it just did not go that way because I do believe that Wendy has tended to be more or less caught up in her own self. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying for this friendship, it was probably a bad thing. And it's also probably a bad thing for the way that the women view Wendy, potentially. Okay. And a lot of you guys seem to view Wendy that way as well, because she does at times come across self-absorbed. So there's that. And not to mention, it does give the appearance that Kay, you came across for the earlier parts of the season as messy and confrontational. I would say maybe less messy, but probably more confrontational. I won't give her the messy part because I do think that Kay genuinely has those strong reactions. I think that's just her personality. But I also think that there was a side of her that came through during the Colorado trip that I actually liked a lot more, when she was not trying to be in control, when she was not trying to control the narrative about what we think about her actions, and she was just showing up in the screen. I'm, again, not one of those types of people that says that Kay should be thrown away with the bathwater. You know, we don't throw the baby away with the bathwater. But I am going to give her some tips for coming back and just letting things breathe. You know, you can't control how the audience views you. So just show up as however you're going to show up and let that be that. Okay. Now, in other news, I will tell you that Keiarna was not the only person who had something to get off of her chest with regards to the public perception of the friendship. Because I have to, again, shout out our friends over at Reality Entertainment TV, but I wanted to include this because I thought it just kind of carried through a narrative thread to see where Angel is in this debate as well. So I want to shout out Housewives for my housewife. Shout out to my boo. And also shout out to Reality Entertainment TV. A commenter says she prepped Angel, meaning Keiarna, before the show, especially for Wendy. This is how it appears. Okay. It appears as though after the chin check, there was maybe some preparation. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But this is how it reads because Angel came for Wendy pre-ready. So, girla, please go argue with your mama. So Angel responds and says, please stop it with this narrative. Like, are y'all okay? No one prepped me for anything. I'm a grown woman who is clearly capable of forming her own opinions. The negative peanut gallery commentary is tired at this point. You heard it from the source. Don't at me. Again, I cannot speak to, and neither can the audience. We cannot speak to what your friendship is like off camera. We can only speak to what we are witnessing with our own two eyes. And for you guys to tell us continuously that that is not the case, while I do appreciate it, it would be more advantageous for you to actually show up that way on camera. That will tell the audience more of what they need to know versus you guys clarifying or clearing things up or telling us that we're not seeing what we're seeing. Those would be my words of wisdom, just as a viewer, someone who loves the show, someone who is rooting for both of them to return and do better. Okay. All right. So I want to talk to you all about another quagmire, so to speak. This is coming from a preview. So for those of you guys that don't want to be spoiled, I'm not sure what to tell you, but here we are. And spoil you shall be, because I like to spoil you. All right. So Ashley Darby acknowledges in this clip that she needs to adapt to the different levels of sensitivity and be more mindful of the other lady's boundaries. Angel regrets not showing a more fun and bubbly side of herself. All right, so we've talked about Angel. I don't feel like, beating that any further. But let's talk about Ashley. For me, Ashley makes an interesting point, and this is an interesting bit of commentary about the level of sensitivity from not only the cast members, but also the fandom. If Ashley is looking for a sparring partner in terms of who she spars with on the show, she might want to settle on having the one. I do think that what we're seeing as it relates to being a pattern with Ashley is almost this idea of playing housewives. Does that make any sense? Like, well, I'm doing my job, guys. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. She said something similar to when she talked about the whole situation with Jackson, about how she kind of teased maybe there was a little bit more because she knew it was going to be salacious and she's been in this game for 10 years now. When you get to the point where you're playing with the audience and you are toying and doing things, and then you are later on kind of admitting to egging things on for the sake of making good television, that is when you lose the plot of the reality TV show. And I don't really want Ashley to be in this spot. And I really wish at times that she would just stop saying things that are related to the production of the show and what her attempts are. So as you're talking to the camera and you're talking to the group of ladies, to say that this group is more sensitive than the people from back in the day, the people from back in the day that you sparred with would have been Karen and they would have been Candace. And I would wager to say that I don't necessarily know that the ladies today are more sensitive than the ladies from yesteryear, because the reading was definitely also at a savage level then. So maybe you could argue that Angel is a tad bit more sensitive, but I would also say that if you know she's sensitive, at some level, at some point, when is she not gonna be your target? When at any point in time do you feel like if the opponent that you are creating TV with is not equipped for the journey that you're trying to take her on, do you then fall back and say, as an adult, like, this girl is actually suffering, and this game that I am playing is not fun. It is like watching traders and watching Rob dominate all of the rest of the players because they are so spellbound by his down home country boy demeanor that it just makes watching the show ultra boring. It is also ultra boring for us as a viewing audience to watch you guys continuously pummel this girl who clearly is not, again, equipped for what you guys are dishing out. So it just makes you look less messy and fun and just more mean spirited. And I think it is you up to you who has the tenure of 10 years under your belt to recognize she's maybe not the opponent that you guys need to be focusing on at this point in time. Stacy, on the other hand, might be a more worthy opponent for someone like you because Stacy takes none of you seriously. Stacy doesn't even appear to take herself that seriously. So she, to me, comes across as a lot more fun. But even then, the audience is finding themselves rooting for Stacy more so than anything else because of the continued antics that we've seen from Ashley season after season after season. At a certain point in which it just becomes maybe the group isn't just that sensitive to you because the question was about Ashley seeming meaner and nastier, is that maybe, just maybe, there is a level of fatigue that has come along with what we see you attempting to do. That is how I feel about this. That is how I'm reading the room with this situation with Ashley. And I might be wrong. I might be wrong. But if your game, if the goal here is to play a game of housewives, the better person, the better adversary in that position would have been potentially, like I said, to continue with Stacy. But after a while, even that is going to get boring. If you, as an OG, want to play that game, the better person to play it is the person that you're playing it with now, and that is Wendy. Because Wendy has tenure in this game, and she does not really seem to care much about what you dish or what you can give out to her. So again, if your goal is to take aim at someone, let's do it at somebody who's a lot more seasoned, well prepared, and understands what you're doing. And maybe honestly, it appears as though Wendy quite doesn't quite understand what Ashley is doing when she's, being shady and sassy and giving a wink and a smile to what housewives should be doing. So give us less of the this is what's going to make a good housewife show, and maybe there was extra pressure to do so as a result of having Karen absent this season because Karen typically makes for such an easy target. You didn't have Karen and you didn't have Mia. Those would have been the easy targets in the past for the ladies to joust with. But when you take Mia and you take Karen specifically out of the mix, you don't give a person like Ashley really a person to kind of play off of outside of Stacy. And like I said, that gets old after a while because after a while, we're just now rooting for Stacy and we don't care what she's telling us. We don't care what she said. We don't even care if she told us the sky was blue and we saw the sky being gray. we wouldn't care. If Stacey told us we were all on the planet Jupiter, we would just laugh and go along with it because we, the audience, might be over what you are serving. And now we know that you are literally serving us something that may or may not be real to you, to what you have actually going on. So I do think that there could have been some level of pressure on maybe Ashley and Giselle to bring more of something. Maybe they put that pressure on themselves. I really don't know. All I know is that for me, if Ashley is going to want to have that firecracker relationship with someone, she probably needs to have it with somebody who is ready, willing, and able to go toe to toe with her, regardless of wherever she decides to take it. And that's that on that. I want to move on to this right here. Shout out to Carlos doing the interviews. I swear, every time I turn around, there is a new interview. I'm like, sir, when are you asleep? When are you sleeping? And today we're going to be talking about his interview with Mimi Faust. Now, I just thought that this was so fascinating. Just this little bit right here, because I always look for things that I can talk about, things that are a little bit different, a little bit exciting, like something new that we haven't, a new way to look at something that we haven't necessarily looked at in before. And I just thought that this little tidbit right here, and to be quite fair, you guys, I have not had an opportunity to watch Love and Hip Hop, the latest episode. I have not had an opportunity to watch all of this interview. I am going to be talking specifically about this clip right here, and I will make sure to catch up on all of those things as best I can when I can. But until then, we do have things that we can discuss. Having said that, Mimi says that Love and Hip Hop paid her a lot less than Joseline and feels that she deserved just as much. She says, quote, if it wasn't for me and him, there would have been no her. Okay. Now, if you take things over to Joseline, has her own streaming service. And so if you go here to Why Are You Here TV, now I don't know why she named this Why Are You Here. I do think that it kind of brings a interesting connotation, like someone could be asking when they just see these interviews pop, like, 'cause she does these confessional interview styles, which, listen, here, my thing is this. I'm all for it. I think that everyone needs their own thing. Everybody needs their own platform. You need to own something. You're out here in these reality TV streets. If you yourself out here are out here with a business, anybody in the chat, you got a business, or you can be monetizing yourself. These moves that Joseline is making are part of the reason why I think that Joseline ended up making more than Mimi. So let's talk about it. Now, we know that Mimi has a business mind, at least on some level, right? Because we know that she also had her own cleaning business, which I also think is a great avenue for her or anyone. And I think that that's a great, I wish I knew more about that aspect, and I wonder if they talk about that in the interview. But I'm going to tell you that I think that Joseline, for whatever you guys may think about her, she made quite a lot of smart plays from an entertainment perspective. And I think that it is that mindset, whether it was all her ideas or whether these were Stevie J's ideas or whether she just had a phenomenal team. Joseline, it appears, at least on some level, began to recognize her worth as with regards to being a reality TV star. She did. She began to recognize her worth in some way, shape, or form. Again, whether you like it or not, whether she is beating them girls up or not on her cabaret show. I don't really know. I don't watch it. But what I did start tuning into as a result of the Mimi interview, no, actually one of these interviews just popped up. They just popped up on my timeline. And I said, you know what, go Joseline, because at the end of the day, she saw a model that worked for her own cabaret show with Zeus. Now, I don't know if she'll continue with them. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. But what we do know is that she set up for $5.99 per month. She is making her own entertainment for you, for the fans, for the people that love Joseline. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's do some math. And I'm going to go back to Mimi in 1 second. Let's say that Joseline, let's do some mathy math. Let's say Joseline has 4.9 million followers. What's 1% of 4 million? Let's say 40,000 of those people spend $5.99 with Joseline. Joseline could bring in upwards of $239,000 every single month just from her own streaming service if she were to simply just market to her own following on social media. Now that's just I mean, and that's a conservative estimate, because also too you would want to factor in any talent that she's featuring. So I'm sure she's paying camera people. I'm sure there's something that she's also putting out. But as the owner of this streaming service, she does stand to bring in quite a load of income. But the key here is to continuously be putting out income, bring in shows, pay, studios, and well, not really studios, but pay camera crew, talent, and bringing in additional potentially sponsors. You just don't know what it's going to lead to. But that's my point, is that I feel like Joseline very early on just started making super smart moves that probably also extended back to her time at Love and Hip Hop. And I feel as though behind the scenes, she was making herself a lot more valuable to the network. And I'm not saying that Mimi did not. I don't know what Mimi did, and I need to watch the interview because maybe she gives further context into that. So I want to readily admit that there's a gap in my knowledge, but just based on the surface, as a viewer, as somebody who was watching the show, it did seem like Joseline, for whatever it's worth, had more leverage to negotiate more than Mimi. Because then let's look at this. I don't know what Mimi made from the tape of her and Nico, but I would wager that Mimi would have made more ultimately if she had simply joined OnlyFans, and she would have been able to leverage her own likeness, and regardless of whatever position it might have been in. But I would almost imagine that she probably would have made more over the course of time on OnlyFans than she probably did with that appearance in that tape. But I don't know. And I also wonder, did Mimi have anybody there to guide her business wise? It appears as though the relationship with Stevie was super tumultuous. So it's unclear to me how much of an impact he had on her business dealings with Mona and Dem, or whoever is running Love and Hip Hop at the time that she ended up leaving the show. So I don't know that she left the show creating this legacy for herself that made her super, super attractive to other reality TV outlets, such that they would be vying for her to come and play with them. Now, I like Mimi. I think that Mimi is fun TV, but Mimi also has to be activated on TV as well. Because something that I kind of want to go back to Keiarna, and I meant to mention this earlier. Keiarna does this thing that bothers me, where she also she refuses to give any energy to somebody. So when Jazzy comes onto the stage on the reunion, and you can see a clip there from on the Bravo Shade Room as well, but she basically tells Keiarna, like, don't use your 15 minutes here on me. And she almost kind of talks about how I didn't recognize Jazzy when she was on the train, so I didn't speak to her. Like, I don't like when a housewife refuses to give energy to somebody that they feel like is lesser importance, and thereby potentially hoping to limit that person's engagement because they feel like you're not going to use me as your story. But in fact, it is an ensemble cast, and you all use each other for stories. She made high six figures from what, the tape? I think she could have made more than that on OnlyFans, but that's just me. That's just me. That's just what I think. Potentially. Who knows? Oh, God. I'm looking at y'all comments. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to come on here and talk with y'all about that real quick. I have a meeting at 7 p.m. for anyone who is looking to work in the travel industry. If you want to learn how we book Dubai they don't have it for $1 anymore. They do have Dubai for $29. Email me at bookings@djrichieskye.com. This is only for people that are serious. I don't want no looky-loos. I don't want no people that's like, you gotta know that you are a go-get-it type of person, and if you're not a go-get-it type person, okay. Outside of that, guys, Bali will be going live. If not tomorrow, it will be going live on Friday. I have, at this point in time, I'm looking at the email list. We have about 1,300 people who are waiting for an update on the Bali trip. So definitely get on the list. We have approximately 1,314 people who are waiting to hear about Bali. So if you have not jumped onto that list, definitely jump on. If by any chance we just happen to like sell out super fast, then I'll probably have to open up a separate one, a second trip. So just hop on the list, guys. Hop on the list. With that being said, thank you guys for tuning in, tapping in. And, this was kind of spur of the moment, but I'm glad you guys tuned in. So with that being said, I will, of course, catch y'all in the next video. Squad, we are back in the building, baby. And y'all, we are going back to Bali. Yes, we did it once and we're going to do it again. But y'all, we're going to do it again and it's going to be even more lit. This time, I'm feeling like it's a breakthrough in Bali. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why I feel like I'm being led to go back there. And I really want to take you back as well. The first time we went, we had a blast. We had a ball. That was the trip that started my whole travel experience, creating travel experiences. That was the first one. But y'all, I learned so much during that trip. And now I want to do it all over again, but I want to level that thing up. So if you are somebody who has been thinking about traveling abroad, but you just didn't know who to go with, or if you have been trying to travel and your friends and your family keep backing out or don't want to make the commitment to go, this is an opportunity for you. You can finally get this trip out of the group chat because it is going to be fire, okay? I've selected the hotel. We are staying in a lap of luxury. We're going to be doing Bali right. And the thing about Bali is that it's also, it's kind of a spiritual experience as well. So you can expect a really good blend of culture, exploration, a little bit of adventure, definitely some spiritual awakening and enlightenment, and also some good old sexy grown fun. Okay, I'm talking about beach clubs that overlook rice fields. I'm talking about the Bali swing. We're doing all of the things. Trust and believe. We got this thing down packed. So I am excited for that. But here's the thing. Here's how you can be the first to find out. Just click in the link in the description of this video, skyboundtravel.com. That is where you can go to sign up for the list. You can get on the list and be the first to know about Bali and any other excursion that we might have planned, because honestly, y'all, I want to be traveling all year long and I want to travel with you. We've been doing this thing here on YouTube for quite some time together, and now I really want to be able to do that in an environment that is just fun and feels free. And I know some of y'all are ready to just get out here and just live. So this is an opportunity to do so. So hop on the list. The link for Bali will be going live very, very soon, within the next couple of days. So I want you to be the first to know about that and any other tricks that we got up our sleeve for 2026. So if that excites you, then hop on into that link and I will see you